Good morning, everybody. No, it's not. It's not a good morning. Not a good morning whatsoever. I don't know what stage of grieving you might be at right now as a Seahawks fan if you're watching this, but wherever you are in that process, it's not a good morning. And even though it's a Saturday morning, the weekend's starting. We've got college football today. We've got pro football tomorrow. I doubt that we're having much of a good time right now because things are bad. We're still processing what happened on Thursday night and the ramifications of it and what it means for this team's future and present. But it's happened. We can't do anything about it. It is what it is. All we can do now is try to move forward and figure out what we might see over the next few weeks to couple months. So I didn't make a video yesterday because I was already doing the stream and we had a great conversation about all this stuff in that stream. But I'll go over the facts as we know them as of right now. So this is not breaking news. Everybody already knows this. If you're watching this video and you don't know this, then that's strange. Maybe you turned off your internet yesterday because you didn't want to hear it. But the Seahawks say Russell Wilson had successful surgery on a tendon rupture, mallet finger, which is what was initially predicted, and a fracture dislocation in his finger as well. So he actually had two injuries in there. They say he will start therapy this weekend and is expected to return to play later this season. So Wilson did indeed have to have surgery. Apparently he was in some significant pain yesterday after it happened, and there was just no way he was going to recover without surgery. So they got it over with as soon as possible, and now he begins the journey back. And it will be a journey. He's guaranteed to miss at least a few games. As for how many, Corbin Smith has the answer on that. He says here, I'm told Seahawks are hopeful Russell Wilson returns by mid-November, but they won't rush him back. Week 10 against Packers may be the earliest realistic target date. So, best case scenario, Wilson misses 3 games. Now, I don't know if I like the idea of bringing Wilson back for his first game in Lambeau Field against a really good Packers team, or at least a good Packers team. I'm not going to say really good, but that seems a little foolish. But best case scenario, Wilson misses 3 games. And as for the worst case scenario, Wilson could be out into December as well. So, based off what I'm hearing, it could be 4 weeks, or it could be 8 weeks, or it could be anything in between. So, you might not see Wilson back until the Sunday night game against the 49ers in December, and that's your worst case. So, first, let's talk about what you might see from this team without Wilson. And we'll start with Geno Smith. And I'm going to be straight up with you guys to start out this video. I don't give a damn what Geno does over the next couple of weeks or couple months or whatever it may end up being, because Geno is Geno. We knew what Geno is when we signed him. We knew what Geno is when we signed him last year. We knew what Geno was when we signed him 2 years ago. We knew what Geno was when we decided not to go get another backup quarterback when there were opportunities to do so. And if he goes out there and sucks it up the next few games, then you're not going to hear me get mad at him, because it's completely pointless. Geno has been in the league for, I think, 9 years now. He entered the league the year after Wilson did, if I recall correctly, so he's been around. We know what he is. We've had the opportunity to see him with multiple teams, in multiple systems, with multiple teammates. So Geno can only do what Geno can do. And I'm not ruling out the possibility of him playing well. And to be perfectly honest, you are probably going to see him do some things that Wilson doesn't do very well, and you're going to see him do those things better. Now, obviously, Geno Smith is nowhere near as good as Russell Wilson, but you are going to see more screen passes probably. We're probably going to use a lot of those to get Geno into a rhythm, and Geno Smith does throw screen passes better than Wilson. He just does. He also sees things over the middle a little better than Russell Wilson because he's taller. So you're going to see more throws over the middle to open receivers like Metcalf and Everett and maybe some Lockett as well. So you might even see better pocket presence. And I can't believe I'm saying that, because Geno Smith is not known for his pocket presence whatsoever. His pocket presence is probably quite poor compared to the average NFL quarterback, but There are moments where Wilson just loses all track of reality in the pocket. And we saw it on Thursday night. Both sacks. Both sacks are some of the most extreme examples of not understanding that you don't have an infinite amount of time in the pocket. Both those sacks 100% on Wilson. I don't know if he thinks he has a Pope mobile back there sometimes. I don't know if he's thinking that they're playing flag football and they have to count to 5 Mississippi before they can rush him, but you are going to see Geno Smith probably not do that as much as Wilson does sometimes. Not that it's going to be great, but it is going to be better in that regard. And there might even be moments where you fool yourself into believing that, hey, Geno Smith is better than Wilson. He's better for this offense. He's a better fit for this coordinator. And then you're going to see the two big losses when you downgrade from Wilson to Geno. The first is the turnovers, and I want to jump over to his PFR page to take a look at his stats here. He's played for a while, but we're going to just look at his first 2 years because those were the years when he actually got to start and actually got to play consistently and actually got to show what he could do. He's made he's made a couple other starts in his career. He's played a little bit, but excuse me. These were the only 2 years where he actually was auditioning himself. 2013 he played every game or started every game. 2014 he started 13 games. He had, let's count them up, 21 plus 13 equals 34 interceptions in 29 starts. So more than 1 interception a game. Plus, don't forget, 8 fumbles in each of his first 2 years. He didn't lose all of them, obviously, but 16 fumbles in 29 starts. So add it up, and you have a guy who was averaging almost 2 turnovers a game when he was the full-time Jet starter. Obviously, he's older now, wiser, in a better situation maybe, better teammates. I understand all that. I'm not saying that Geno's going to go out there and throw 5 interceptions every game, but you are going to start to see turnovers. And I fully expect that you're going to start seeing maybe an interception a game. And this defense was playing bad enough with us not turning the ball over. We had, I think, 2 turnovers on offense through 5 games. And neither turnover set the opposing team up in our territory. So you're going to see a huge drop-off in that regard because those turnovers are going to start turning into points. They're going to turn into your defense getting even more tired because now you're putting them in terrible situations. And that's the main loss. You're just going to see an extra turnover a game with Geno in all likelihood. Even if you tell him to just be a game manager, even if you assume that he's gotten a little better at some of these things over the years, he's still just going to turn it over more than Wilson. And Wilson has pretty much always managed to keep a lid on the turnovers. So it's not surprising, but it's going to be stark. And it's probably going to hang this defense out to dry even more. And you're also losing the deep ball. Wilson has one of the best deep balls in the league. Geno he doesn't. I would expect that part of your game really just goes out the window at that point. And now you're definitely going to see some safeties start coming up and challenging us to beat them deep. And they're going to see if Geno can do it or not. And he's not going to be able to do it like Wilson did, and we're going to have to find other ways to make the defense respect our deep threats. Now, I hesitate to do this, but I know you guys are going to ask me to do it if I don't. I know you guys want me to do this. I honestly, I feel like what this team does in terms of winning games or losing games right now is of minor consequence, because their issues are so numerous and so obvious at an organizational level that I almost feel like winning or losing a football game is just a distraction. But let's take a look at the schedule that's coming up and see what we can see, because the possibility of Wilson coming back by mid-November does exist. So, as many have pointed out, yes, you have a game in Pittsburgh next week. Not a very good Steelers team so far this year. Very little offense. It could be a very low scoring game that comes down to who has the ball last and is able to get some cheap field goal drive. And it could just as easily be Geno Smith as Ben Roethlisberger at this point. Like, that is not a good Steelers offense at all. And we'll get to our defense in a second here because I want to talk about that for a little bit. You've got home games against the Saints and Jags. The Saints are very inconsistent. Who knows what Saints team is going to show up on Monday Night Football? We can do some things against that team in all likelihood. Even their defense, which looked amazing after the first week, it probably not as good as they looked. Daniel Jones kind of did whatever he wanted to against them at the end of that game. And then you have a game against the most dysfunctional team in the league, more dysfunctional than us somehow, Jacksonville. So it's not beyond the pale to say that the Seahawks with Geno Smith have the potential to win the next 3 games. They're not really hard games, but they're going to need much better play from their defense. Because I'll say it again, the defense was playing that bad without the offense turning the ball over. If our offense starts to turn the ball over even once a game or twice a game, that's a completely different wrinkle at this defense that could turn these games into 40-point games. You might start giving up 40 burgers. But you could win those next 3 games. Then you've got your bye week, and Wilson could come back at any point. Now, if he doesn't, which I don't think he will, you've got a game in Green Bay. You're looking like a loss there. Home against Arizona, looking like a loss there. Arizona looks good. And then you've got a game in Washington. I don't know what Washington is. It's a primetime game on the road. Their defense is abysmal, and I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense, but their offense looks pretty good, so I don't know. I don't know if I feel good about that one. And then you're probably looking at getting Wilson back for December 5th at home against the Niners. So they can win some games. They could, but I kind of don't care because my focus with this team right now is on things that are bigger than just winning or losing a game. And before you start assuming things, because I see some Seahawks fans assuming like, oh yeah, we got Pittsburgh, we got Jacksonville, these are going to be easy wins. We're going to win 3 in a row, go into the bye week, and maybe we drop the next 2 or 3, but we'll still be positioned for a wild card. We can go 11-6 and get a wild card. Let me talk about something with this team that kind of disturbed me. Well, maybe disturbed is not the right word because I'm not sure this is even a bad thing, but I want to talk about something. So here's a tweet from Michael Sean Dugar, another guy on Twitter who follows the Seahawks, and he had a quote from Pete Carroll after the game. Things that have happened in the game are things we've practiced. That's alarming to me because we're on it. I'm not going to read the rest of it because that's the relevant part, but I really want to emphasize what Pete just said there. Things that have happened in the game are things we practiced. So what Pete is saying here is the coverage blow-ups. Like just looking at these plays where receivers are wide open. Or, and I'm going to talk about this more later, plays where the offense literally runs the same play over and over again and you cannot stop it ever. So over and over again, they're running the same plays and you're having the same problems in coverage. And what Pete is saying is that these are things that went wrong in previous games this year. And these are things that I focused in on in practice. Things that I emphasized in practice. And they are the things that we continue to do wrong even after the emphasis in practice. So those plays where a Rams wide receiver is running wide open over the middle of the field, they are the same kinds of plays we saw against the Vikings, where a receiver is running wide open over the middle of the field. And even though Pete recognizes that it's a problem, and even though they work on it in practice, it doesn't get better. I really want everybody to try to comprehend what that might mean. What does it mean that this defense is practicing these things and working extra hard on fixing these things, and when it gets to game day, nothing changes? As bad as our defense has been through 5 games, last in yards, below average in points, forced like 4 turnovers with one of them being cheap, meaningless turnover. I I've been trying to figure out why, and the reasons why seem to be the players don't understand what they need to be doing in certain schemes. The scheme is bad, things like that. Things that suck, but through all that, I haven't really felt like it was a lack of effort. I didn't get the sense that these players, for the most part, were just dogging it out there. I didn't see players slacking. I didn't see players just going, well, we're getting paid anyway, so who gives a crap if we stop them this time? I didn't feel like it was effort. But when I read this from Pete, I hear no effort. I hear either the players are half-assing it in practice, or they're half-assing it in the game, or both. So now the door is open for this team to start to just not give effort. If you guys thought this defense was bad before, and it was bad before, watch what happens if they just decide they don't give a crap. And with Wilson missing significant time, they have the ultimate excuse to decide we don't give a crap, because they know it doesn't matter, because they know that even if they get a stop, they're just giving it back to Geno Smith, and they know he's not good. Da, 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 da. So if the team was already starting to not give effort in on defense because they didn't like Carroll, or they didn't like Norton, or they didn't like the scheme, and these things do happen sometimes. These are human beings. If you're forcing them a scheme that sucks or doesn't fit their talents, they can stop giving a crap. Maybe Dunlap doesn't give a crap because we're forcing him into coverage all the time, and that he doesn't want to do that. Maybe Alton Robinson is starting to lose his passion because I don't want to call out Alton because he's young. I doubt he's doing this, but we're forcing him into coverage. Maybe these players are just starting to check out. And even though I didn't personally see it watching that Rams game, but maybe the effort is starting to go away as well. And if the bottom drops out there, if this team decides, you know what, this scheme sucks, these coaches suck, now we don't have our quarterback, the season's lost, we're in the toughest division in football, forget about it, let's just collect our paychecks and whatever, why would we care? Why would we give a damn? If you start to see that, oh boy. And it's happened before. Maybe not with this team. Well, it probably happened with this team at some point. But I want to draw attention here, and this is going to sound like a tangent, and it kind of is, but indulge me for a few minutes here. The 2010 Dallas Cowboys. I want to talk about these guys for a second, because they were a fascinating soap opera. I don't know how many of you remember the 2010 Dallas Cowboys, but they were a team that went into the season with Super Bowl aspirations. They had broken through and won a playoff game of the previous year, and this year they were thinking Super Bowl. And they come out and they find stupid ways to lose games. Let's take a look at some of these games, okay? So they're playing pretty well, but they are making stupid mistakes and doing silly things that are losing games. They lose the opener in Washington, 13-7, despite outgaining Washington by 130 yards. They lose to the Bears, 27-20, despite outgaining the Bears by 102 yards. And then they take care of Houston. Looks like they're back on track. Pretty good. They get their bye week. They lose by a touchdown to Tennessee despite outgaining Tennessee by almost 200 yards. They lose a game in Minnesota by a field goal despite holding Minnesota to under 190 yards. So they're not playing badly. They're having good production on offense. They're having good production on defense. They're finding ways to lose, but it's not necessarily a bad team. And then they go against the Giants at home. I remember this game very well. Monday Night Football. They come out, play really well. It's like 20-7 Cowboys. Then they lose their quarterback. Romo gets hurt, and the team immediately decides to just give up. They give up 31 unanswered points. The score is 41-20 Giants. And then the Cowboys get 2 garbage time touchdowns basically to make it look a little better, but they're outgained 2-1, and it's just a complete embarrassment and humiliation. At that point, the team decided to stop giving a crap. The next week, they have a home game against the Jaguars, a bad Jaguars team. They go down 35-3. And then they score 2 garbage time touchdowns at the end to make it look a little better. And the next week, they Sunday Night Football against the Packers, 45-7. And I will never forget watching that game. I've never seen a NFL team make it so obvious that they don't give a crap anymore. They had players literally just walking and jogging around on the field in the middle of plays. They had players not coming out of their stance at the snap. They had players doing celebratory dances after getting a tackle when they're down by 3 touchdowns. When the game's over, in garbage time, they're celebrating. They're hot dogging for the camera on the sideline like, hey, Mom, look at me. Meanwhile, they're losing by 40 points out there. And they had quit. They lost their quarterback. They had lost faith in their coach. And the players just quit. Now, that's a little bit of a different circumstance because at that point, 1-7, at the point that they went 1-5 after losing to the Giants, it was pretty clear that Wade Phillips was not going to be back the next year. It was pretty clear that he was not going to return as their head coach. So some of that is probably just, well, why would we bother playing hard for this coach if he's not going to be the coach next year? Like, let's just dog it. Wade's not going to like us, but who cares? He's not going to be the coach next year anyway. We don't have to impress him. And you saw once they fired Wade after that Packers game, the team immediately started giving a lot of effort. The team actually started winning games and actually playing pretty well. And they looked like a above average team for the rest of the season, honestly. So don't be shocked. And I'm not saying I'm going to predict this, but don't be shocked if you see this team decide we're checked out. We don't give a crap no more. We don't have our quarterback. We don't like this coach. We don't like this scheme. Let's just collect our paychecks for the rest of the year and try not to get hurt. And honestly, that would affect change. If this team quits on the field the way that Cowboys team did in back-to-back primetime games, that will get Jody Allen's attention. That will let Jody Allen know that I have to do something because forget losing. Forget losing. We don't even look like an NFL team. Because imagine how bad this defense will be if the players decide to stop giving effort. And I'm really interested to see if they do. I'm really interested to see if this team, without Wilson and with a losing record and 3 games back in the division, or probably going to be about to be 3 games back in the division, just decides to hell with this, just give me my paycheck, and let me go through the motions on the field. And I'm going to be here. And for me, for that reason, Sunday night against Pittsburgh is must-see TV. I want to see if the rats start to jump off the ship, because the ship is sinking. And I want to see if the rats leap off and try to swim to freedom, try to swim to shore, or if they decide they're going to go down with it and at least fight and see if maybe they can salvage the ship. And look, if the team quits, you're going to see some unwatchable football from the Seahawks, but you are also going to see change be forced to happen. So maybe it's what we need. I'm not saying I'm rooting for it, but at a certain point, and I'll talk more about this later, you have to ask yourself, what are these wins worth? If we beat the Steelers, if we beat the Jaguars, what is it worth? Something to think about. Let me know what you think down below. Long video, I know, but there's a lot to go over right now, and I'm really interested to see what this team does now. I want to see if these guys continue to give effort. But I'll see you guys later today. Peace out. Go Hawks. And, well, Sunday night, like I said, for me, must-see TV, but for a reason that I never imagined this team would ever give me. See you guys later.